Great. Um, Last time we look at some basic terms for the type 3, and I explained that I made it clear that we did not finish. There are some few things you need to actually understand, and basically there are two main things that we are going to explore today. And from there, we can now begin to use the tools of median, mode, and mean for on data type 3. So what are these terms? Today we are going to look at class size and class midpoint. These are also important things that we'll be using in doing the tools, right? Why are we doing all these things? Why are all these terms adding up to data type 3? Because you see, data type 3, we are picking items from a range of values. So then, for example, what we have here, we say that these things are no more called items. We made that clear last session. So we call them class now. We call them class. But why are all these terms important? Why do we need extra terms to understand Original Type 3 before doing that? Remember, this is a class, and when we did that, we realized that for a class that is 0 to 10, right? And you agree with me that we counted 5 items that fall within that class. 5 items that fall within that class. But from 0 to 10, there are more than 5 items. So how many times they appear? So if you have 2, 2, 2, 2 appearing between 0 and 10, that's 3 of the 2s. So not all the numbers between 0 and 10 are the ones that we totally counted. So we need an extra 10 that will make the adjustment to make sure that the things are actually well handled. That's why the type 3 come with understanding some tools, right? Now, what did we talk about? We talk about the class size now. So let's explore what the class size is. So we have class size. So it's just like normal classroom where we have a group of students in the class or teachers on the size of the class. If there are 30 students, we say there are 30 class, 30 students. So the class size is 30 and those stuff, business, market, and all that. So now the same thing applies to this class size, right? So to get the class size, what you have to do is that you have to do the difference between the upper limit and the lower limit, upper limit and lower limit. So in this case, it's going to be from 10 minus 0, right? So it's going to be the class size is going to be, let me just actually make a different category, like, so class size. So the class size will come here. So yes, so we have, now it's going to be 10 minus 0, which is 10. 20 minus 11, that's 9, right? 30 minus 21, that's 9, 9, 9, 9, 9. Now this is the thing. If we were suppose this class is actually supposed to start with 1. I made it from my head. So actually this one is supposed to start with 1, ideally. But let me keep it like that so that to show you something that is not going to be always constant. So it's a very particular tool for me to use doing that. So from 10 minus 0 to give us 10, and the rest are giving us 9. Yeah, mostly you see all of them being constant, the class size being constant. But what we have now is not yet the class size. We haven't gotten that. So because we are trying to find the class size from class limits, from the limits, not class boundary, right? So we are trying to get the class size from the class limit. So if you are doing that from the class limit, watch the previous video to understand class limit. If you are getting we're trying to get the class size from the class limit, what you do is that you do the difference between the upper class limit, the lower class limit, then you add 1 to it. So this one going to be plus 1, plus 1, plus 1, plus 1, plus 1, and plus 1. That's what you do for so here the class size is actually 11. Here the class size is actually 10. The rest 10, 10, 10, 10, 10. So if you are getting the class size from class limit, if the class is in the class limit, not in class boundary, you do the difference between the upper class limit and the lower class limit. You add 1. So 10 minus 0 plus 1, 20 minus 11 plus 1, 30 minus 21 plus 1. But if these items were already in the in class boundary, if you have them in class boundary form, what you just basically do is that you just do the upper class boundary minus lower class boundary. There's no plus 1 there. In that case, there's no plus 1 there. Indirectly, there's plus 1. The plus 1 has been done indirectly when you are doing the conversion from class limit to class boundary, right? But there's no plus 1 there for that thing. So it's more convenient to convert your class limit to class boundary before you try to find the class size for convenience sake. But if you want to get it directly from the class size, the upper class limit minus lower class limit plus 1. Remember the plus 1 all the time. But to be safe, right? To be safe, because not all the time it will be like that. To be safe, convert your class limit to class boundary. Watch the previous video to see how it's done. And just do the difference between the upper class boundary and the lower class boundary. What you get is your class size. As simple as that. That makes it simple for you, right? So I just show you in this case that the class size may not always be the same. So there will be questions that we'll be solving, and then you see that we'll be using class size inside the question or in solving the question. But sometimes you will see that when you start, the first one is 9, the second class size is also 9, the second one is 9, 9, 9, 9. Then you just assume that, oh, the rest will also be 9. It's not always the case. Take your time and solve the class size for each of them. Solve the class size for each of them, because you may be having 9, 9, 9, 9. One may be 8, 7, 9, 9, 9, 9. So if you go and check the beginning, check the end, you didn't go through systematically, you might lose mark because you are assuming that everything will have to be the same. Not always the case. Yes. So for the class size, this is how to get the class size. Now the other thing is the class midpoint. Class midpoint. That's another term that we will need to understand. The class midpoint. Let me clean this size for you guys. Then we get into that. So a class midpoint is actually just something short, right? All you do is that you do the upper plus lower. We are trying to find the middle, right? Divided by 2. That's all. So whether the thing is in upper class, the class is a class limit or class boundary, there's no much worry about that. You just add the upper and the lower, then divide it by 2. For the class midpoints, you don't have to worry whether the thing is a class size or so just midpoint here, midpoint. So here 10 plus 0 over 2, that's 5. 20 plus 11 over 2, that's 20 plus 11, that will be 31 over 2. I think that's 15.5. Yes, that's 15.5. 20 minus 20, 20 plus 21, that's 51 over 2. That's, I think, is 25.5. And I guess this one will be 35.5, like that. 45.5, 55.5, 65.5. Yeah. So basically, you just add the upper class limit or upper class boundary to the lower class boundary divided by 2. That's how to find the class size and class midpoint. So this class midpoint is just the middle value of the class. So the class 0 to 10, the middle value that's there. That's what the class midpoint is just. That's why it doesn't matter whether the class is a class limit or class boundary. But if you are evaluating class size, it is best to convert everything to class boundary. Then you just do the difference and you don't have to be doing any plus 1. Remember to always add plus 1 if you are trying to find the class size from the class limit. Great. Yeah, so if you don't understand this class limit, class boundary, it means that you have skipped one video, which is the previous one. Kindly go back and watch. So now we are ready with all the terms, right? We are ready with all the terms that we'll be using to do the mean, mode, median for data type 3. Data type 3 is a big deal. Most of the questions that you'll be solving, WASI is data type 3 is their big deal. That's where most of the things, the focus is. So because as a statistics student at this level, we need to know that. So yes, you are going to explore that. So go through this concept, like watch this video, watch the previous one, what are the one that you solve, the type 2 concepts and things, and get that concept and follow me into the next video.